All right, Jen, we did it. Season 1 of Timely Topics in the books. We recorded, produced, and shared 9 complete episodes. I didn't think we were going to get to that moment, but we did it. And I tell you what, it was a lot of fun.
It was a blast. I had so much fun. I learned so much about myself and so much about you. And so did our listeners, probably more than they wanted.
Thanks. That's perfect. I really enjoyed the experience to get to collaborate and work together. And when we think back to where we were a year ago with no episodes done, we really didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. Yeah. And it unfolded in so many fun ways. And I think that is what we really want to inspire anybody else to do, right? If you've got content, you got a message or a story to share, just press send.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to reflect a little bit on season 1. So what was your favorite part?
That's so you, Jen, that you'd want to reflect.
Obviously. What's your favorite part?
What is my favorite part of the season 1 production? Without a doubt, it was the interviews for me. I think, first of all, conducting an interview is such an exciting privilege, right? To be able to have a limited amount of time and to try to extract somebody's story and to try to make sure that you position and make them look good in that moment, to make sure that the audience can really resonate with the person or character that we had a chance to meet. So I was honored to conduct those interviews, but it was also just a lot of fun to get to know the people and to get to know a little bit more about their business. And it always feels like when you do something of that magnitude together, that relationship becomes a little bit stronger. So now we've added some more folks to our community, which is great.
Yeah, and I also think it's hard to do that really well in 12 to 14, maybe 15 minutes at most, really tell the story of an individual. And most of the people we had the chance to know prior to coming on the show, and we knew a lot about what they were bringing to the table and a lot about their story. It's like, how do you extract that in a meaningful 12 to 14 minutes? So.
Yeah, and a little teaser, season 2, we're going to pull those interviews out, and we're going to be able to have a little bit more time for you to get to know some of the guests that are on the show, and we're going to keep much of the integrity and the show structure from season 1 together, with the interviews now hanging out as their own episodes. Thanks for the feedback on that. Jen, what was your favorite part of episode 1?
So I really did enjoy having our guests in, but I think something that I loved more than that was the receiving of correspondence and reviewing the correspondence together on the show. I think at the very beginning, when correspondence was coming in, we said, oh, great, there's actually people on the other side of this listening and enjoying. But really, as the season progressed and the episodes were released, it was a great way for us to connect with the audience, know that we were making an impact, answer questions as they came in. So it was engaging for us. We're not just putting content out there to sit on its own. We really wanted others to share their thoughts and feedback, and you really, truly did that. And there really is only so much time in everyone's day to listen to podcasts, and people chose to listen to ours. So that meant a lot to me.
The correspondence was awesome. We hope it keeps rolling in. And for those of you that didn't get a chance to check out every episode, we really hope you're going to enjoy the highlight reel coming up right now, which pulls out some of our favorite moments from the first season. Let's check it out. Welcome to the show, everybody. So we're recording this the week after the Super Bowl, and the question on everybody in the office's mind, Jen, is, did you watch the game?
Do you think I watched the game?
I really hope you did, because I thought I made a compelling argument that really every American needs to sit down and watch the Super Bowl so that they know what's going on the next day.
Yeah, I watched it. I'm not going to lie, though. I definitely went back and forth between the regular televised version and the one on Nickelodeon, because that whole SpongeBob theme really fired me up.
So Nickelodeon showed the actual football game, and SpongeBob was a commentator, or what's the deal with that?
Yeah, there was a lot of things happening. It was
go.
fantastic. It really added a little spin to my evening.
So, Rory, Jen, feeling any pressure to succeed?
In regards to pressure, I've always said, and the fact that you put the question to us, like, pressure is a privilege.
Do we have to wait for January 1 to have a new start?
And you're saying that whether it's getting a haircut or finding that perfect new outfit, new pair of shoes, that we might want to start considering that as part of our brand or rebranding.
Potentially.
In coming over, I was tasked with really bolting a supercharger on the story of Connecticut, telling a new story, a different story, and helping us achieve our overarching objectives as a state under the governor's leadership, which is to grow our population, grow the number of non-propensity businesses out there. So anybody who doesn't know what that is, that's a business that hires people, not just a single person entrepreneur, and to change perceptions of the state.
It's really interesting. So you don't have the philosophy of going, let me try and get through this so I can get more. Jen, there's a theme emerging here, folks, that Jen likes to savor things that she really enjoys. So we'll have to maybe go down that path in a future episode. We love podcasts. We love books. We like to make recommendations that nobody's asked for.
Also, I do want to share a text that I received this morning from Haley Seeger, which is one of CCI's alumni, a really great friend of ours. And she said, congratulations on the new podcast, Rory and Jen. The two of you taught me how to tap into this new uncharted territory and blend the confidence that was already there on a personal level with my newfound confidence as an entrepreneur. Having people that believe in who you are does wonders for crafting your personal brand and how you show up in a room and on LinkedIn. So thank you for all you've done to support me and the other entrepreneurs at CCEI.
Yeah, so one of the things that we would advocate for folks out there is if you're somebody that struggles with risk and maybe you're not a big risk taker, or maybe you are a big risk taker, is to be able to juxtapose your level of risk taking, whether it's high or low, with somebody else around you who is a trusted advisor, a friend, a partner, and figure out where they are at on risk, right? So if you partner with somebody that's high risk and you're high risk, it might be time to pull in a third person that might be a little bit lower risk so you can have better dialogue in going through the process of decision making. For all of our entrepreneurs out there, for all of our business leaders, this is something that's really important, right? If you're a high risk entrepreneur, it's probably a good idea to get an advisor on the team that maybe is a little lower risk, and then you can try to balance each other out and come to conclusions that are going to help you ideally make steady growth.
I would probably say just being very guest centric, and not in a fake way, like in a genuine, like I want my guests to have a good time and to have a unique experience in a restaurant. Really connect with our guests on a very human level. So you'll often see me, if you're in my restaurants during lunch or dinner, I'll usually be sitting down at a table with our guests talking. I actually told you one time, everyone should do what they want to do. You know what I mean? Because that's important.
Very good. Very good.
So I know this is good idea, bad idea, but have you ever heard of crazy ideas?
No, but I didn't. Okay, sure.
Here we go.
Here we go.
So this is a really great, in my opinion, team building activity for entrepreneurs to dive into with their teams. So basically the premise is you allow your team to come up with wild ideas. Anything they want to come up with, whether it be about the product, the marketing approach, the service that you're providing to your customers, anything, and just allow them to rip. And I think what happens in those scenarios is you can come up with really, really good nuggets. With something that's absolutely wild, can you pull some of that back and find the gold in that? So that's my suggestion is if you want to pull this, let's come up with a really cool thing for April Fools and do that as the tee up for your team, you might actually get some nuggets of wisdom in there that you can actually implement with your product.
Okay, so Jen's saying it's a crazy good idea. Yeah. It's a bad idea. From me, what do you think? You think it's a good idea? You think it's a bad idea? Will you be playing any April Fool's tricks on your customers, your clients, in your organization?
And I love that we are reaching other countries outside of the U.S. That's really exciting.
Reach.
Yeah,
right.
That's great.
2 episodes in. Fantastic. Last night as we were preparing for the episode, I get a text message from Jen, and it's a picture of her asparagus. Why, you might be wondering, because on the bag, it says the word inspiration. Your asparagus, folks, can be inspirational. I mean, you can look at the signs and the desk calendars, there's T-shirts, there's stickers, jewelry, right? Those are all places that we can hang out in and find inspiration. Do you think it's the same? I mean, can you find inspiration truly anywhere? Are there tiers where there's like higher or lower levels of quality in the inspiration?
I think that this industry has exploded and we are seeing inspirational quotes on everything. You just mentioned books, T-shirts, calendars. I'm a consumer of inspirational stuff. As you can imagine, it's all over my office as you've seen. So,
well, I think everybody's an artist first and foremost. I may be an artist by trade, by title, et cetera, but the truth is once you put a mark down on a page or you've done something that has started off as an idea and then become real life, you have created art. That in its essence is being an artist.
Yeah, I'm on the side of definitely recognize your people, right? Because people are at the center of the process. So I'm definitely on the side of employee recognition, but maybe employee of the month is just a little outdated for us.
Yeah, I like the idea of that stage persona because sometimes we get up and we're so afraid of what it's going to look like when we go out on stage, what people are going to think about us. But almost if you wear a different hat, it's like you're putting on a mask or you're putting on, a different outfit. You become this different person.
Yeah, and I think it makes it a little bit easier to be successful in a sense because you're not worried about what it's going to do to you or like where your individual persona is going. Like you have the stage persona. So I think it actually makes it a little bit easier to be good. Yeah. As I was thinking about this, right, what's the opposite of success? It's failure. And I think it's so easy for me to recognize areas where I could have been better, where I could have done more. And I certainly will highlight those and regard those as being maybe not failure per se, right? But opportunities for improvement.
Yeah, and I think we have to be really careful. And this is the big challenge with self-awareness. And we talk about this all the time, the importance of really understanding what you value and what's important to you. Because all around us are others' measures of success. We see people driving the cars that have the jobs, that have the certain type of family experience, vacations, all of those external things that are constantly telling us like what we need to aim to achieve versus looking inward and really figuring out what you want out of your life.
We laid a lot of investment down on both coasts of the country, with a lot of that right here in Connecticut.
Yeah, that's great. And when you first launched, did you envision Athletic becoming what it is today?
I think so we did. Right from day one. I mean, John's been talking about the day when his kids turn 21 and you can open a menu and get like the choice between non-alcohol and alcohol is like an afterthought, really.
For me, my holiday season is that first week of July because I think the atmosphere is just people are ready to take a break, to go out, to enjoy all their hard work. And there's just nothing better, right, than getting the barbecue going, right? People out by the pool, hanging around, and just kind of celebrating that halfway point in the year. And I want to give my own correspondence on the show today. Congratulations to our very own Jen, who was awarded as the Hartford Business Journal's Top 25 Women in Business for 2024. Congratulations, Jen. We're all super proud of you. And of course, right, you continue to inspire many women in the world of entrepreneurship.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. But I think it's always coming back and remembering that sometimes what you get what you ask for, it just comes in a different form. So you may ask for a very specific thing, but the underlying why you asked for that, I think it ultimately comes. It just shows up differently.
My first foray into failure was actually fairly young. I think it was in high school. It was freshman year. I was at Babson, and I went door to door to all the businesses in town looking for a summer job. I had my resume, who knows what the heck was on it. There couldn't have been much, but door to door to the different restaurants, to the movie rental place at the time, no one would hire me. And it was demoralizing to just get no. And so I had been babysitting, and I realized if I could group babysit, which essentially is a summer camp, I could make a good amount of money in 1 week like I would, all summer working minimum wage. And I did that. And so it was the first time I realized, like, wow, I have the power to do things outside the box.
Do you have a gut reaction, Jen, to bankruptcy?
Okay, so Alex, I'm terrible at playing this game, as you know. And I don't know that I'm going to land on it being a good idea or a bad idea at all. I think it's just a thing. I think I'm going to talk for like corporate side of things. Bankruptcy, it's a thing. It's available so that companies can restructure their debt and potentially move on and move forward. So as you can imagine, we received a ton of comments and messages from our listeners over the summer. And the common thread was that our listeners missed us.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Isn't that wonderful? So how do we help leaders, entrepreneurs that say, I don't want the personal recognition, and they are saying, I'm too humble to receive this, or this is not necessary for me to receive this? How do we balance that if that's what's necessary?
Great question. I'm actually really glad that you organically brought it to this space. I've been using this line now for about the last year or two when I've been working with some of these executive coaching clients, right, are folks they're doing really well, right? Their brand or business is going really well, and they'll say things like, I don't need recognition, I don't have to put myself out there, I don't need thought leadership. And the response is, it's not about you, right? It's not about you, because your responsibility is to build a brand, is to put your values out there so that they're accessible. That your responsibility is to make sure that people can recognize what it is that you offer so that when they need it, when they want it, they can have access to it.
Yeah.
So the biggest piece of advice that I still need to take on a daily basis is just go so fast and stop sitting back and thinking of like, what should I do? No, just do it and listen. Mm-hmm. Do it and listen, because by the time you get through 2 months, you could have iterated 50 times, and now you have exactly what the customer needs, and you can communicate it in the way that they talk back to you, versus spending 2 months trying to figure it out yourself. Yeah. You actually don't know. Even if you're the core demographic, you're just one. So you really need to just act fast and be willing to pivot and maneuver as you hear back from the market. The market will tell you.
What I gathered in the news cycle was that Starbucks sales were down, and they actually were turning to pumpkin spice to really ratchet things back up. I think that becomes a little gimmicky to me, right? I think when you're relying on that approach to increase sales, it starts to make me question, right? Like, is the value still there? So Jen, how are you?
Fantastic. You want to know why?
Why?
It's finally fall.
You love fall.
I love fall so much. There is nothing that I don't love about it. The weather, the cute sweaters, the yummy apple cider donuts, apple cider. Like, I can't, the list goes on.
Are you like a pumpkin patch person? Are you going to go carve some pumpkins later on this month?
No, but I will enjoy everyone else's.
Okay.
You want to know why? Because my squirrels eat them, and that eats at my heart
And
to
that's
see
annoying.
all of that work.
Yeah. I need more people in my life to invite me to Halloween parties. So if anybody's having a great Halloween party, like, let me know. I'm enthusiastic about it.
Because if you can associate intuition with make it more physical, we always think with our mind, we have emotions with our heart, but our intuition is our gut, right? It's that gut instinct, and it's hard to describe what that feeling feels like. But if you're really connected to who you are, you can feel that.
Awareness. And Jen, you talk about saying things like, if your self-awareness is not relatively high, it becomes really difficult to know like what your instincts or intuition should be.
So when we come to the table to make a decision, we are clouded by really only two things: the experiences we've had in the past and our fear or worry about what's going to come in the future.
First of all, when we were working on the book, there's that cerebral exercise, like, who is your audience? And my book team kind of like ideated, and basically we're like, crap, everybody. And that's not actually what you want. Most of your entrepreneurs know you're supposed to niche, so you can talk. But it's like, no, there's so many. But I've said this a couple times. If you put a gun to my head and said, pick one group that you think will most benefit from this, I have said it's the entrepreneurs. Because it really started as, out of my entrepreneurship journey.
Do you have thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm super passionate about this topic, actually, and that's why it stood out to me. So generally speaking, my intuition tells me I like to see promotions from within in most cases. But as you mentioned, right, if the culture's good, if you're winning and it's a matter of just finding a successor for a leadership role, I think why not go from within where they understand the culture, they've got existing relationships, and they're not wasting any time jumping in.
What was the conference?
Conference was great. I mean, anytime you go to a place where you're coming together with people that are super passionate about the thing that you're super passionate about, you can sit down with anybody and immediately dive into the details and tactics and strategies. And it just feels like you're getting together with a bunch of old friends, even though you've never met many of the people before. Yeah. So I always come away from the ABC conference feeling inspired and enthused by the work that we're doing.
Yeah. And Andrea W. said, I loved Rory's good idea or bad idea segment about promoting within. I think that promoting existing employees rewards them for their commitment and helps to maintain good company culture.
We promote you, Andrea. Thanks so much for that checking in. But here's the question, right? If the old adage of the more things change, the more they stay the same, how does a business grow and evolve when we as consumers and customers rely so heavily on the consistency, and yet they must evolve at some point, right, to be able to adhere to the changes in the marketplace or the demands of their customers?
And I'm going to say something, and I think you're going to love it. It has to do with values. I think if a company is saying, I value innovation, and they are consistently innovating, it makes sense. So they can change over time, but their value is staying the same. If they value innovation and they never innovate, is where you're like, hey buddy, what are you doing here?
Of all the other things that you tried, like why the kitchen was the place you were drawn to?
Yeah, I did a lot of different things when I was younger. I always had to work. I always wanted to work. But when I hit the kitchen, it just was, it was a fit because the culture was just something that enamored me, right? So like, it was a mentorship of sorts, as the restaurant business is, if you think about it. But there was like older guys in there from all walks of life and just different people saying lots of things, different types of things. It was high pressure, but it was fun. It was just kind of outrageous. And for me, at my age at that time, that outrageousness kind of just really fit with what I was looking for out of life, and just fit. The culture would fit for me.
Like the end of the year is coming, and it seems to be this like mounting pressure. Yeah. Do you feel like a certain pressure around the end of the year? Like how does it impact you?
I don't, and I think, you and I have talked about this, like being in higher education and working in this space where we're not actually at the end of an academic year, we're at the end of a semester, and semester usually ends the first week of October. December. Yeah, right. I know our students would love that. Maybe for them it does. But I'm going to take the path through the entrepreneur's lens, because my number one piece of feedback that I provide to individuals when they are first coming up with an idea is to tell people about it. There's a certain level of people think you have to have it so far cooked before you can tell anyone what you're baking. But you actually need to tell people earlier on because you never know who can provide the support.
And it's kind of interesting because if you're adopting my 90-10 rule, which I think we're going to have to maybe explore, I'm going to have to put this down on paper a little bit, of being consistent 90% of the time, that if you don't indulge, that ultimately it makes the 90% not worthwhile, right? It actually
What are
takes
you
away
working for?
Yeah, it takes away its value. And I think it takes away the opportunity. We're talking about the end of the year. So if 90% of the year was to be consistent, the 10% that's meant to be random, that's meant to be outside of the norm, I think if you don't have that, I don't think you can sustain, whether it's a work rate or a passion for what you do, I don't think you can continue to show up year on year on year without finding some way as a human being to indulge, to enjoy yourself. It's all relative, but I just think like when you look around the world with customs and traditions at this time of year, you will see around the world people finding ways to indulge regardless of their means. And it tells me the human spirit is wired to experience joy as part of the way in which they move forward.
So I feel like it's truly not about what I've accomplished as like items I've checked off a list, but rather the impact I've had on other people. That's how I want to be remembered, is the impact I've had on individuals. If we're talking about of giving the money back, as you mentioned, giving it as a bonus versus spending it on the Christmas party, it really depends on how much they're actually spending on the party and how does that evenly divide amongst the team. And if you're talking like $80, $100 by the time you're taxed on that, you're really not taking away a whole bunch more value. I think going to a gathering to have a dinner and some drinks and being around people, that money is worth more than the price per person that you're spending.
I think I hear you saying it's a good idea.
I think
do we have maybe for the first time Jen got a good idea, bad idea, and is actually giving us
an actual answer. I would say I think it's a good idea to have some form of a holiday gathering with your team at the end of the year.
Yeah.
The party never stops around here, Jen, because as innovators, we of course are always looking for ways to improve. And so we're excited to announce a few changes to the program coming up for season 2.
As Rory mentioned at the beginning, the interviews are going to be extended and produced as their own separate episodes, which is really exciting.
But, Jen, we're not going to change everything because we have got some good feedback from listeners, especially on our timely topics and the good idea, bad idea segment. So those are at least here to stay for season 2.
And as I mentioned, we love correspondence. We love to hear from you, our listeners. What do you want to see more of? Do you have any ideas for timely topics guests that we can have come into the studio?
Or something that you'd like to see Jen and I debate a little bit further? We're always up for a good idea, bad idea segment.
And we also want to say a huge thank you to everyone who reached out and sent messages in. I can't thank you enough for that. We really, really appreciate your support and hope that that continues. And don't forget about us over the next couple of weeks as we're rolling into the next episode. Keep sending us your love and your comments.
And finally, a huge thanks to our CCI team, especially our marketing coordinator, Kate, who's been crushing our social media content throughout the year. Big thanks to our former producer, Alex, who helped us get it up and running. Our spring interns, Jude, Aaron, Emily, and our fall interns, Lucas, Abby, Rayhan. Thanks a million. You make this entire process a heck of a lot of fun to work on.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Rory, for leading all of this and actually telling us we're going to hit go on this crazy idea that we have been talking about for such a long time. So thank you for all that you've done to lead this amazing team and to give me something to look forward to every time we come and sit in the studio together on these Friday mornings to record.
I look forward to a lot more Friday mornings in the studios, and thanks so much for tuning in.